Hi, this is Jan from Log Cabin Leather for the second part of my workshop tour. The other day, I took you into the main part of my workshop where I would say the most creative pieces of my projects take place. The other half of my room is where I have my 4-inch thick granite table sets where I carve all my pieces, where I tool all my belts. Actually, where I paint all my pieces even is in that section. I also have the large table where I do all the cutting, where I do the patterns, kind of the planning out things and so forth is done on a large banquet table on that part of the room. The other piece of equipment that's over there, which is one of my most popular ones now, or my favorite one now, I should say, is my Glow Forge, which is a laser cutter. The whole month of March, I'll be talking more about that. But again, it's what enables me to cut the butterfly and the 3D shapes and so forth for my wilderness collections and so forth. That I'll be talking more about those in the month of March and so forth. But now I'm here to finish the rest of the workshop. So this is the other half of the room. The part I showed you before is straight in front of me, basically. Over here to my side here is where I have leather storage. There's some shelves across the room, and I'm not really going to show you that. And there's leather stored on across all over here. Hides of belt leather are huge. They're a good 6 feet long, and they're rolls that are about this wide around. They're pretty heavy and so forth. So some of the shelves can't withstand them. So they're also part of a couch or whatever. So that's over here. So that's the part I'm not really going to show you. But this is also where this is kind of the messier section, I would say. Well, leather is messy in general because everything you do with leather, you're cutting little pieces. So I'm going to do my best to be able to show you this. This section over here is where I do all my dyeing. So once I have the design stamped, tooled onto a piece, you're getting a sneak piece at my belt collection that will be launching in February. Um, I add color. So this one has I've just started to add the color. I don't know if that really shows very well on the camera, but again, I'm adding a little bit of color in there. After that, I have to add a dye resist so the dye will not penetrate into the places where I've added color. I mean, in that case, it's brown. It's not going to make that much of a difference, but if it was a lighter color, it would make a difference. Once that's done, the product needs to be dyed. So again, it is, I use antique dyes because it gives it, what that does is make the impressions on something like the belts and stuff really stand out differently and so forth. So it makes them, so you're going to end up, there it's dyed. So that's the section that's over here. I wear gloves. I usually have an apron on. It's pretty messy. I don't wear decent clothes when I'm planning on dyeing things. I generally dye a bunch of things at once. You use sheepskin and old rags and things like that. So again, it's quite messy. Belts along, so it takes the whole table here and so forth, and you have to do the edges and so forth. So it's quite a process. Once that's done, the next step, which I also do over here, again, in particular, this is a lot of belt things now. I mean, other products like barrettes and things like that, I do dye as well. So smaller products. But for belts, once you've dyed them, then you have to put a waterproofing on them. Then you have to finish the edges. So again, when I'm dyeing them, I make sure the edges are all dyed. Then I have to put something on them called tragacanth because the edges here are a little bit rough. And see, this is what sets my belts apart from other belts. I don't want that rough edge. So I'm going to put something on it called tragacanth. And then I'm going to come over to this machine right here, which is actually a drill press. And on the drill press is this wood burnisher, which again, I'm sure is probably not showing on the camera, is a wood burnisher. And I basically have to run the belts through that. So it's going to rub the edges and smooth them and press them down. And again, because they're burnished and beveled and so forth, it rounds them off and it makes them far more comfortable. So that's a step that kind of sets my belts apart from other belts and so forth. So that's strictly for belts, but smoothing the edges of anything like a guitar strap or something like that, I would also do that after it's sewn to smooth the edges off. And so now, speaking of guitar straps, this is my sewing machine. Guitar straps now are basically the only thing that I'm going to be sewing. my book covers is a line that's being discontinued this month. Again, I have my live clearance sale coming up January 23rd, where I'm going to be selling off the rest of my book covers and really the rest of my sewn items. And so the only thing left that I will still use this machine for really is making guitar straps and custom orders and so forth. So my machine is here. It is called the walking foot sewing machine. It can sew very slowly, but more flat. I mean, like wouldn't be what you'd use to make a saddle or something where you're trying to sew close to edges, it roll and things like that. Like, so it's called the walking foot sewing machine. Over here is, yes, this machine over here is called a skiver. And what a skiver does is it thins out the edges of the belt. So now, and again, I use it strictly for belt making. This is raw belt now. But again, if this was going to be the buckle end, because there's this nice thick 9-10 ounce leather, which makes it a nice rugged belt, and which is why they're going to last for decades, that's very thick. If that was at your waist, that's going to make the buckle stick out very far and obviously make it very uncomfortable when you bend over. So what the skiver does, it's going to shave off a piece of the back. In this case is what I'm going to do with it. So on the end where a buckle is going to go, of course, this would be rounded off and finished. I'm going to skive off just a little bit in the center here like that. So when it folds over, it's not going to be as bulky. So that's an extra step, again, I take that makes a difference. A lot of other belt makers, their belts are sewn together. So those are a little different. They don't really need to do that step because they're using a much thinner leather together, but they're sewing it together so they easily fall apart, whereas my belts do not, which is what really sets them apart. And again, I'll have a new collection of belts that will be launching in February. And that pretty much is going to wrap it up on the workshop tour. That's pretty much what it is. It's kind of in an L shape here in my basement. The other third of the basement is basement and storage. It is unfinished, as you can see. Like I mentioned before, it is unheated and so forth. So it can get a little chilly down here at times. That's going to wrap it up for now. Again, join me, please. Every Thursday at 10 o'clock, I go live. I'd love to know if this is a good time because I'm trying to start this every week, Thursday at 10 o'clock going live. I'd love to get comments and so forth to know if this is a good time, whether 11 o'clock would be better. I can work, do that too. So I'd love to know what times people are going to work. I have a lot of things coming up, so I'd really love your comments and things like that. Right at the bottom of this video, you can see a link to join my email. If you do that, that's going to give you special offers and discounts. You're going to you're going to get emails that remind you of these videos and so forth. I try not to bombard you an email a week, a couple times, a few more when I'm having the live things and stuff, just especially the first year to try to get people used to what I'm doing and to get more participation and so forth. Again, if you know people that are nature lovers, I would love you to tell them about my products and so forth. And the other thing, again, if you like the geometric tooled, intricate designs for belts and guitar straps, then that's another reason you might want to follow me or tell people about me that might not know that I'm out there to make a small business grow. Again, that's going to wrap it up for now. Thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you continue to join me in the future. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.